Welcome to CATtheMinion YouTube channel. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. This is a reading to look at energy for the full moon-ish in February of 2024, or whenever you find it. This is Astrology Tarot Periodical, so we're looking at zodiac signs, or whatever you feel drawn to. So for this reading, we're looking at Libra and Virgo, because I paired them up by pendulum, and there's going to be 6 readings total. I just want to give a little heads up. If you see that my fingernails look dirty underneath, it's marker that hasn't washed out yet. This yin-yang relationship reading is typically designed for romantic relationships, but it might not necessarily be the case here. We're describing shared energy between two opposing forces, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're in an argument. It means someone's on one polarity and someone's on the other. Masculine, feminine, light, shadow, worker, boss, parent, child, hot, cold, inner child, ego, whatever. So depending on what the cards come out as, it may or may not be for a romantic relationship. This was not specifically pulled to be a relationship reading for each of these signs, so we'll see what happens. For the yin-yang relationship reading, these 2 piles in the middle, usually I use the bottom card from the deck, so I'm just going to pull those out so the piles aren't in the way as much. And these usually start out upright. Normally, my yin-yang relationship reading is only 1 layer. For some reason, this week it is supposed to be 2. So what we're going to be looking at is the surface layer and then the secreted layer that's coming up in the full moon energy. So we see from Libra's deck that the crossover is Lemuria energy. Creating heaven on earth, it's happening. Now, Lemuria is a society that existed before Atlantis. It was sort of predates, but also concurrent. And it's a sort of a state of being that's more spiritual and less physical. So in order to create this sort of heaven on earth, what you're trying to process is the grounding of thought forms, the grounding of spirit. And we see that happening because we have an earth sign and an air sign. We're trying to take both sides of the equation and fuse them together in a way that doesn't obliterate materiality. I don't know why I said that weird, but brings more spirituality into the meat space, right? We want our 3D reality to be lighter and to flow better, but we want to understand how to carry spirituality in the material world so that we're not completely cut off from the universe, from receptivity. So in essence, these 2 crossover piles is what the mashing together of the 2 elements does. The 2 opposing things do. It's like you could make scrambled eggs or you could make bread, but if you mix them together you could make cookies or pancakes. And then the crossover from this Virgo pile into the Libra zone is the King of Cups. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. You know, bad times are disappearing. This is a good pairing with the Lemuria card because what we have is my meat space vision is opening up and I can see patterns and things make more sense now. If you're seeing jumps in the cut of this video, it's because of traffic going by and me being a little bit ill. So you don't have to hear me snarfing into my paper towel or chugging my Gatorade. And again, this is surface level. This is, you know, the obvious. This is what's not been in the shadow moment, right? The obvious course that's happening, if that makes any sense. Because this layer underneath with these heart-shaped cards and these bicycle cards is going to be what's more hidden, that's able to come to light in the full moon energy, right? Because if you think of the moon card in tarot, it's fears, secrets, hidden information, suppressed information, you know, like there's something you're not telling me. So if we're going to start in the earth, anyway, I'm just going to start in earth energy and we'll work our way up into the air. So we have strength card, El Condor Pasa. I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail. Like, I don't want to be the lowest man in the food chain. You know, I'd like to achieve something greater than being prey to something stronger. It's not coming from, oh, I feel weak. It's, I want to be balanced and strong in myself. It's a little bit about having the confidence to stand up for yourself, to be yourself. Now, if we look at this, we have an 8. In some decks, strength is 11 and justice is 8. And in that way, those cards are always linked. So we go from the Leo energy to the Libra energy when we do that. So Libra is always background linked to the strength card. The King of Wands inverted. So we see more fire coming up in Virgo energy. This is a 14 inverted. So it tells me I'm way out of balance in terms of my authority to my core being. 5 inverted is a low vibration of the Hierophant, which for me is the connection between spirit and material. I'm so low vibration in connecting to the spiritual and the material that I'm not even in Emperor, Magician, or Empress, High Priestess level. I'm still in the 4 kingdoms and I'm inverted. So this indicates a need for a shift or a pivot. And if I have 14 breaking down to 5 and 8 together, that's telling me 13, but with this inverted, it's telling me 3, which is the difference between the 8 and the 11, which should be the Empress, which is abundance. So it's like my abundance is stalling out. Now, if I take it at face value, 8 minus 14, I just realized that the math was kind of off there. It would be 3, the number 3 in general, 3 of Wands. I'm waiting for my ships to come in. But either way, what I said is still valid. But if I say this is 14, 8 minus 14 is negative 6. So I'm either dealing with 6 Wands inverted. I feel like I'm at a loss, right? I've been beaten. Everybody hates me. Or it's inverted of the Lovers. I feel alone. I feel sick. I feel disconnected. And the other card we have here is the Nine of Wands. So we have more fire energy. And the song I have on here is Feeling Good, as done by Muse. The card itself has to do with being stuck in the same position for a long time. And, you know, it's either like, do I hold or do I fold? How long do I have to stand here? Like, how much more do I have to take before I can actually feel like I've accomplished something? And it's in the upright, so we're on our way to completion, but it feels like it's taking for fucking ever. Let me just check these energies on my handy-dandy chart here. So King of Wands is Cancer and Leo energy. So we're dealing with the sun and the moon working together. And if you think of the full moon, you have the fullest brightness of the sun reflecting off the moon that you can get in the sky. Things are being illuminated. It usually tells me eclipse energy when I see the sun and the moon flapping around near each other. And that's what we have with a full moon. There is like absence of eclipse there because the earth isn't creating a shadow over the moon. The Nine of Wands here is the moon in Sagittarius. So we see that we have more fire energy and more moon energy, which is not surprising. Sagittarius energy is I'm taking my energy and I'm sending it somewhere. I'm taking a leap with it. I'm not radiating it out from me like the sun, and I'm not stretching it out like a plant like I would with Aries energy. I'm going quite a distance with where I want my energy to end up. Like a burst of energy. I'm gonna fire myself like a cannon. You know, it's like a coil, but when you think of spring, the spring isn't necessarily going to shoot somewhere, it's going to expand, and that's what happens with Aries energy. Whereas this would be a projectile that the spring would push, and then you'd have your parabolic arc and it would land somewhere. So that's what this energy is doing. I'm trying to put a message somewhere. I'm trying to put my energy somewhere away from me so that it can expand in that area. Just bring this up here for a second so you can actually read it. So that was the music cards, Virgo's point of view, and Libra energy. We have the work your light. So let's look at the surface level for Libra. We have Star Mother. How can you mother yourself? So this is giving me the inner child energy. Whereas you might say that Virgo energy is giving a little bit more of ego with I want to be the winner. I want to be the one who's shouting from the mountaintop. Whereas Libra's coming in with more like I want a hug. Boundaries inverted. Okay. Potassium. Where do you need to establish better boundaries? All right, this is people-pleasing energy. This is... it's actually giving masking. And I'm saying that because of autism in particular. Neurodivergence. ADHD. And for anyone in general who's gone through life where your core self is... made to believe that no one will accept you and that you have to make the space for yourself smaller and smaller and smaller, and what everyone else reaches in and tells you is right is what you have to do. And it comes in not only in terms of who you are as a person, but how you behave. I'm not going to allow you acceptance unless you do this task that I told you to do, and that task that I told you to do, and this other task. Or I am allowed to abuse you and you can't say anything about it, whether that's emotional, physical, mental, financial, whatever. It's a systematic destruction of boundaries that says I get to take your energy for my purposes and it doesn't matter what happens to you. And we see that this lack of boundaries is coming in with this idea of I want nurturing so that I can be protected. So we see this coming in for Libra with a similar idea of being out of balance and wanting some kind of self-confidence, but it's coming in from this, what I would say is a more emotional state, whereas this is more of a material picture it didn't happen kind of state here with Virgo. And the last card here is Starseed inverted. Got some Saturn going on. What lights you up? My boundaries have been affected. Myself is being dimmed and repressed. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want because I've not been allowed to be me. I've had to mask myself and be whatever 20 other people want me to be so as to receive less abuse, less lack of nurturing, less inclusion, to the point where when I sit with myself, I don't know who I am. Libra is, I want to be loved for being myself, but I don't know who I is. Like, who am I? But I have to present myself as somebody. Virgo is, I just don't want to be on the bottom. I'm tired of being in limbo. Like, I want to be the king of my own world, right? I'd like to be the star of my own show. I don't want to be an afterthought in the story of my life. Whereas Libra is more like, I would like to be here as opposed to not here, even though I'm like existing. So we see this crossover of the heaven on earth coming from this deep pain that Libra's holding. And we're recognizing with this crossover from Virgo energy that, like, oh, I'm actually seeing that I've been in a position of weakness. Not that there's necessarily something wrong with me or wrong with me emotionally. And you could almost say that this is already the interior and this is already the exterior, but there's another level to this. So we're going to look at that. All right, let's look at the crossover. And this is what the full moon is illuminating here. Okay. Secret admirer. Someone has deeper feelings for you than they are letting on. So we're going to hold on to that idea. And the crossover here is temperance, which is related to this Temperance 14 upright Sagittarius energy, combining these, right? I want balance. The opposite of this card that I've scribbled on is Eight of Carrots, which is, it's not really a carrot, it's a shitty wand that I drew, which would be speed. But we're not necessarily worried about that. That's just an alternate. But the idea that something has taken a long time is already here with the Nine of Wands. So balance is coming. The secret admirer could be that you're finally developing positive emotions towards yourself. If you've never been allowed to like who you are, sort of discovering who you are can be scary, and you're like, I don't know how I feel about this. It's like learning to love and accept yourself is like a whole new ball game. It's like somebody loves me, like, oh my God. And that's where the self-confidence comes in. This can also come in as a romantic relationship in this template where my nurturing and my acceptance and my boundaries are coming from someone has the balls, the gall, the gumption, the fortitude to love me in my natural state, and they're not trying to obliterate my boundaries. They're not trying to win at a conversation. If you've experienced someone who's so full of themselves, they will try to win a conversation like it's an argument. And we're saying, this is what's being resolved here, is like, no one's trying to shout me down just for talking. And it would be easier for me to be balanced and not feel like I'm waiting for something forever if I can actually communicate with someone as like, oh, we're simpatico, we're alike, we match. And again, whether that's someone else or discovering yourself, your identity, the who am I, those can be simultaneous because we have patterns, or it could be one or the other. A little bit at column A, a little bit at column B, 1/3, 2/3, however. What I'm talking about here is a template for energy, and it comes in like a color by number where you can, you have a little bit of leeway, but it's going to be the same picture of, a rabbit with gardening equipment. Whether you color it all black or, green and brown or whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's go look at Virgo first again. We've got the Jack of Diamonds. And we're dealing with masculine energy here, but we're not going to worry about that. This is just how I have these cards set up, this deck of cards set up. So the Jack could be a knight or a page. I'm getting a little bit more page energy, but it's coming in sort of like he's in the process of bridging up. So it'd be like 11 and a half, somewhere between a knight and a page. Also in the back of my head, I just got this idea of trans, because sometimes the page is the princess or the daughter. So it's like I'm in the process of transitioning. And that's only for some people. But it could also be that I'm transitioning from my feminine brain, where everything is sort of creative, to a masculine brain where I'm being more analytical, right? Instead of being in my feelings, I'm critically thinking about the situation and saying like, might not be everybody hates me. It might be I need to analyze that these people were trying to take away my sense of self, and in that way I empower myself. Ten of Swords, related to feminine energy inverted. Again, we're not going to focus necessarily on that. The only way I know this going both ways cards is inverted is because I have what I wrote down there. So Ten of Swords is, what is it, Gemini and something? The Sun in Gemini. And if we have it inverted, it tells me moon. So it's getting me back to that eclipse / full moon energy. And it's telling me I want to take all of the knives out of my back, which is exactly what we're discussing. Especially in terms of, a tu brute. The tall daisy. Everyone wants to knock you down. Like playing whack-a-mole every time you try to rise up off the ground. Someone kicks you in the spleen again. So this last card here over on Virgo is actually a double. Which makes sense. Virgo is mercurial energy, which is, also ruling Gemini, which is Libra's buddy. But let's see what we've got. Ten of Cups inverted, related to masculine energy, and the Ace of Wands inverted, even though I have feminine energy upright on it. And again, these aren't necessarily critical. The DM and DF aren't necessarily critical to this reading. We have this sort of like my bliss in the world has been unattainable because my biggest passion has been driven into the ground. But I see 11 here, and I'm thinking universal timing. But it's coming in with this 911. It's an emergency. I have to deal with what would actually make me happy in life instead of being stuck in the mud and spinning my wheels. And notice I said I feel like this is trying to be a jack. A page, which would be 11. Because for me, I saw the 9 here, and I'm like, this should be 11. But it's a little bit more than that. And I have a 10 here and another 10 here, which tells me that I'm trying to complete this cycle of being severed from my life purpose, basically. My core identity. So for Libra's hidden energy, let's look at these other cards. Got my fingernails. Don't make decisions based on guilt or what you think you should do. For it is only in being true to yourself that you can be true to others. This comes into the boundaries, right? Where I was talking about, I think I'm supposed to move into an apartment and get a job because that's what people do when they graduate from college. This is my own example. But when I got out there, I realized that I was broke. I didn't have the energy to get a second job. I ended up having an emergency surgery that almost killed me, and then I had a nervous breakdown. And thinking that I was doing what people were supposed to do, also having my roommate like bail on me and be a giant bitch. But it's like I tried to do what I thought everyone was supposed to do, and it backfired on me like 12 times before I had to give up on it. And it's like, how am I supposed to be true to myself when I'm trying to survive? But this is saying, don't guilt yourself into what you think people do because you want to fit in and be like everyone else. You have to be able to nurture yourself. And this is where your sadness is coming from, is trying to pattern yourself, trying to make your template be like everyone else's. If you're a square peg, you're not going to fit into everybody's round hole. You can giggle at that as you like. Sexy times. All right. Sexual union. Honor the place in one another where you are one eternal soul, for there you will find true bliss. Now, the sacral chakra goes into the nurturing. Right? You think about being in the womb, that's where you're gestated, that's where you are nurtured physically, really, until you're able to be a functional body outside in the world on your own. So in order to be in union with yourself, the sacral chakra has to be healed. There's also stuff that goes into this in the root chakra where it's like, I feel ungrounded. But the sort of cauldron of nurturing where the identity is allowed to be itself happens in the sacral chakra. And that's where the boundaries sort of come apart. If you look at the root chakra, it's like, the root chakra is more like, I want to be myself, but I keep getting nipped in the bud. Or every time I try to grow stronger by taking deeper roots, somebody sprays Roundup on me. The sacral energy, where we see the sexual union kind of, even though the genitals are kind of in the root chakra, what we're dealing with is the bowl of the pelvis, where the energy comes up to more like, oh, look how I dress, look what I drew, and then someone tearing at your clothes or ripping up your art because they're destroying your boundaries. That's that kind of energy. Now, there is root healing that can be done with sexual union. But what really needs to be done with that is the roots need grounding. And that's why there's this crossover with the Virgo energy here in particular. Because it's not just I need balance, it's I need nurturing Virgo, the inner child, and I need my roots to be able to develop. Why the roots? Because that's my self-confidence. I'm rooted in who I am. The sexual union is available to Libra and in this crossover Virgo to help with a sense of belonging, release, creativity, and what was the other thing? Connectivity. Like, oh, someone's accepting me because I'm being vulnerable, right? I'm having intimacy without being attacked, hopefully. We're talking about union, we're not talking about desecration, because if it wasn't consensual, that would be a boundary issue. We're talking about healing here where there's consent. And I think that's important to mention. Now again, that can be like you and your hand tonight, or it can be with another person. It's available to you for healing purposes. Somebody might be like, oh, well, that's sex magic, that's black magic, that's not acceptable. But what we're talking about here is that we're using the physical body to heal spiritual and emotional things. You might not think the route to enlightenment is doing push-ups and rowing machine, but you might find out that if you're going back to your inner child to heal wounds, that your inner child might not have language developed at certain points to express what the problem is. And the way to move through that is like basically interpretive dance, which could be exercise, sexy times, yoga, tai chi, ballet, hip hop dance, playing DDR, or going for a walk in nature. Anything, or you could just be very actively painting, splattering paint onto a canvas. Anything that involves some kind of movement. You could do archery. You could, I'm trying to think of something that's physical, that's an activity. You could do rodeo. I mean, you might get hurt, but that's still a form of physical expression. The animals involved, it might be something else, but I'm thinking of like large woodwork for some reason. Like building a boat might be considered physical therapy in terms of mental and emotional expression. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're dealing particularly with the idea of sexual energy as a way to sort of use, like, I want to say recursion, but I also want to say it's like a backdoor into healing emotions, is saying, like, I'm going to do something that creates an emotional state by using my physical body to heal an emotional state. And you make your own jokes at the back door. So hopefully that makes sense. It takes the, it's saying like we're going to take the taboo out of sex itself, whether that's self-stimulated or partner stimulated. We're still experiencing this release of blockage of energy in that part of the body, right? And it could be like diarrhea, hip pain, constipation, urinary tract infection, that are physical manifestations of emotional damage, let's say, in that area. Like ovarian cysts or prostate cancer or something. All that stuff can be expressing this kind of trauma. So let's look at this other one for Libra. A message for you. I'm thinking of you this very moment. Your love fills me with light. I love you. Okay. So, again, this could be I am in a romantic relationship and someone's actually thinking of me when I'm not there, but they're doing it kindly. They're not talking shit about me behind my back. It's like, you know what? When I think about you, it gives me happy, joy feelings. I feel warm. I have heart eyes. And it's this idea of I'm being accepted as I am, not as someone else wants to take a bite out of me. The like individual healing version of that template is I'm thinking of myself kindly. I'm honoring the needs of my inner child in a way where I feel connected to myself so that the ego isn't hurting me by saying this isn't you or you suck or any other abusive, intrusive thoughts that might come up from that. You know, all the way to thoughts of yeeting yourself from the mortal coil. So, what we have here with Libra and Virgo energy for this full moon sequence is a way to expose the main issues of lack of self-trauma and a focus point, the sacral chakra, where all the fire is, to start opening up that wound all the way to clean it out, to gain balance through sort of cleansing by fire. But it's more like I'm not being lit on fire on a stake. It's more like the earth moved and it feels like fireworks are exploding in front of me. So it's a little bit more, let's say, fun than getting your mouth washed out with a bucket of Mr. Clean. It's saying I'm oiling the machine so that it can fire on all cylinders, because the sacral chakra is the battery pack for the solar chakra, where the self-confidence comes in, right? I need to be able to nurture myself enough that my inner sun is glowing so that I can, pew, pew, pew my energy out into the world so that I can send these little arrows of the best energy that I have for changing the world or making it better, right? It's like, how can I help other people when I'm feeling helpless in my own way? And it's not to say that you can't help people, because sometimes you can help other people because it's easier than fixing your own stuff because it hurts less. But it's to say my arrows will be spicier and go farther to help more people at a distance if I have the strength to really pull back that string. And that strength comes in the idea of self-preservation, let's say. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then maybe the reading isn't for you, or it's not for you, like, right this second. Because I can't explain it differently without muddling it, or because I don't remember what I was just saying anyway. Alright, so that's it for Libra Virgo. Feel free to watch the other 5 videos in this set, and we'll take it easy, and we'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for watching. Stay connected with CATtheMinion energy work. Check out my complete suite of goods and services conveniently from my link tree. linktr.ee/CATtheMinion. Color your way into some relaxation with my coloring books Energy Forms and Draco Forms on Amazon. Get groovy with fashion and home accessories from my Cafe Press or Redbubble shops. Decorate your environment with original art and divination tools from my Etsy shop.